What up, man?
Not a lot. Sorry, I had to do something real quick. I couldn't just talk to you right at that moment, but I got my phone ready and it's good to go.
Right on, man. Good to
We're
hear your voice.
Thank you. You know, I try to get along with you. You're really difficult to get along with at times. You get things set in your head in stone. It's difficult to communicate with you.
Yeah, I understand, man. I get that all the time, actually.
I know. Me and a lot of our mutual friends have had that conversation. A lot of them are like, "Why do you even talk to that stupid son of a bitch?" And I tell them it's because he's not stupid. I mean, you're ignorant at a lot of things, but most people are. Like when it comes to autism, most people are ignorant as all hell. They don't care. But it's
No,
because you're not enduring it, so it's one of those out of sight, out of mind things.
no, I'm just not an enabler, bro.
You're not what?
I'm not an enabler.
Ah, see, I hear that a lot. Enablers.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah, it's a
Expect
real thing,
somebody,
bro.
if you expect somebody in a wheelchair to run the 100-yard dash or jump hurdles, you're definitely missing the point when you say, "Oh, well, he doesn't have to jump the hurdles because he's in a wheelchair," and you go, "Don't do that. You're enabling him."
Hey, if that's what he wants to do with his life, man, I ain't gonna tell him not to.
Well, that's the thing is that we all need to enable each other to better our lives, and that enabling word that's derogatory. It's like calling someone mentally ill.
You might
Whenever,
want to look up the definition of enabling there, Sean.
well, we'll have to look it up. We'll do that later. A lot of the issues that I was having, I really needed somebody to stop and listen and understand that I was going through hell.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's the major issue that I had with you is that you weren't understanding that hell, but you were throwing your opinion out there. And for me, I can look at where you're coming from, but at the same time, I don't have the resources that you do, and you and I are completely different people who grew up completely different lives.
Sean, whenever I talked to you, I had no resources, dude. I was living in a homeless shelter, and I'm on parole. I had no resources whatsoever.
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I'm not talking about that instance. I'm talking about before that. I mean,
Well,
you've
before that,
you've
I was
had a
in
lot of
prison for the last year.
you've had a lot of experiences that I didn't get to have. Like I've literally never had a girlfriend. That's something that I'm clueless to. When
Yeah,
uh
I know.
when we
I'm
were
not.
over,
Look. I'm not saying that fucking your life is peachy keen, dude. I never said that whatsoever. I know you have a hard life, though.
well, the whole issue that I had with you is that the one time that me and Peaches were gonna have a conversation, you woke up and me and her didn't get to have that conversation. That was to try to get me some help with the things that the Bollingers, basically Natalie's family, were doing to me and her friends and those meth head friends of Maddie's. And I needed somebody to understand that, for when you woke up that night and you were a dick, like that was, I could have ended this right there, if I'd have been able to explain to Miss Peaches in a way that she understood. And I was doing a pretty good job. After that, it was just frustrating. That was actually I went to Miss Peaches to try to get help with that 4 times before Natalie died. And
Well, I don't know why you expect me to be a perfect human being, dude.
I
I'm not.
don't. I don't.
I make mistakes just like everybody else.
Amen to that. I fuck up a lot.
Let me tell you something, Sean. I'm living with Gumby now out here out by Detroit.
You live with who?
Gumby, bro.
Wow. Oh my god. I haven't seen him since he was dating Domino.
Hitchhiking for like 5.5, almost 5 years. I hitchhiked around the country and did the whole rainbow trail. I had a school bus and shit. Got a girl pregnant. That's from this area, so I've been stuck here for the last almost 5 years. He's just raising a little girl, man.
Nice. Everybody's having families.
Yeah?
You know, Danny quit doing that whole pretending he's a thug life and pretending like he was going to go stab somebody and trying to stab people, and he actually started himself a family. He got himself a job. He's got a minivan. He's got a place. I can't hear you too good. I'm going to see if the volume will go up. Nope.
Yeah, I might have had the microphone covered a little there. I think I just opened it up, though.
That's good.
Can you hear us better?
Oh, yeah. The thing is, I was frustrated. I'm still frustrated at a lot of people because, like, I really need them to listen.
Hello.
And as far as autism goes, like, I'm really smart.
I think you might have muted us or something, John, because we can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
That shit is hot. Got motherfucker.
Uh,
What up?
hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right,
What
good.
happened? Did you put us on mute or what?
I don't know what was going on there. Ever since well, there's a lot of issues that I got. The police definitely been messing with my phone. They're pretty good at
I don't know.
that.
It sounds like you might be getting a bad signal there, Sean.
Well, I'm definitely getting a bad signal. Every
Yeah,
once in a while.
you're breaking up.
Here, I got my head right next to the telephone. I put it on speakerphone so I don't have to hold it against my head. So here's the thing about me. I'm really smart, right?
So, yeah, I only caught 2 words of that. Now you can't even pronounce it.
I said I'm smart, right?
Yeah, you're very smart.
Well, that's the thing, is that because of that intelligence, I have difficulties communicating. It's easy to derail the train when there's 6 trains running on parallel tracks. And a lot of times when I have something to say, I literally have to rehearse it before I say it so that I don't stumble on my words or derail the train. So the way that you communicate prevents me from being able to do that without derailing the train. It's just frustrating. So, like you,
Well, all you gotta do is take your time and use your thoughts, man.
I do. See, that's the thing. I don't need advice. I need somebody to listen. And a lot of people keep wanting to give me advice before knowing the full situation. Like for you and me talking right now, you know, I don't really need advice. I just needed you to know that, like, I'm really frustrated and I'm really mad at a lot of people. But that doesn't mean I don't give a shit, you know?
Yeah, I'm frustrated and mad at a lot of people too. Like especially Tiffany. She stole my fucking dog. But you know what? I still call her and I still talk to her.
She took Pucker?
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god, why?
But she's a fucking giant.
Ah, see, I keep getting in trouble for using that word. But I use it where it's valid. I don't really
Yeah, me
call
too.
I don't really call women bitches because most of the women I know, if I call them a bitch, they'll tell me thank you. Most of the guys I know, though, you call them a bitch and it conjures images of them getting ass raped in prison. So it's not okay to call a man a bitch. So I reserve the term bitch for men. And you call a dude a cunt, it doesn't really mean anything to him. But to women, I mean, that's probably about the most derogatory thing you can call them. So I reserve that one specifically for women.
Well, she stole my dog, man.
Yep. She stole Pucker in specific.
Yeah, man. Fucker ain't her dog.
What was her old dog's name? Bailey?
Buckley.
Buckley. That's what it was. Oh my God, he looked like a zombie dog. Like he should have been in Night of the Living Dead or something.
He was. Man, that motherfucker was a zombie. I watched that dog die 6 times while I was married to Tiffany. And then he just popped back up. Motherfucker fell down the stairs in the basement like at least 3 times.
I think it was the eyes that. Well, all right. Plus, he's got those big old ears with the tufts on the end of them. But them gray eyes that he had.
Like a fucking gremlin.
He did. You know, I always liked Tiffany. Actually, she never gave me any issues. But I wasn't dating her.
Yeah.
That's probably the main thing, you know, for most of the crazy women that I know. It's probably the only reason that we remain friends is because I never dated them or tried.
Yeah.
I just wasn't interested. Mostly because I can identify crazy women right off the bat. America breeds them. We teach them they're all fucking princesses and shit.
Yeah, tell me about it, man.
It's like Fuzzy Bear. Like
It's a plague on our fucking society, man. But the men ain't no different either. They got their own separate fucking bullshit that they believe in.
Yep.
My bitches and hoes and all this other bullshit. My whips and chains.
Yeah,
You know?
I
That's all
noticed that.
fucking dumbass shit, dude. Like, I'm now dumber for having to listen to that. You know?
Right? I get that a lot. Like I find it hard to believe that a lot of these people who went after me actually believe the things that they're saying. Actually believe the things that they're typing.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people who have opinions about what happened that weren't there. They've been going out of their way to prevent me from being able to defend myself. They destroyed my name in public and then won't allow me to defend myself in public. And then they wouldn't
Yeah.
allow me to go to court. Like, I literally had to break the law to try to force the police to take a look at what was going on. Everybody that I knew, like, first they arrested me for felony assault against a police officer when I was the one assaulted. And then they kept on putting me on Facebook bans. Like, you know, I didn't want to use my Facebook that way to begin with. But at the same time, you know, Natalie was my best friend. She was my best friend for a reason. There's a reason that when she was suicidal over how her family was treating her, that I was the one that she called. She was like, Sean, if you can't come here to Virginia, I'm going to kill myself. I said, I can't leave right now. I don't have the money, but as soon as I do, I'll go. And that night, she ran her car into a fucking telephone pole, busted her leg all up. But everything that I've been dealing with is because I'm not allowed a fair day in court. I literally had to break the law to try to get a day in court, and it still didn't happen. They had court without me. And then they charged me with it. I had 2 court dates that I had to take care of that were civil court dates. One of them I found out about while I was in jail. And those right there, that would have been my almighty rescuer, believe it or not. If I'd have been able to, the Boulder Police Department would have been fucked.
Why didn't they take you? Don't they? Aren't they? They're supposed. They got an obligation to get you to your court date if you're in jail.
It was civil court. I don't know what happened with that. I just know that my public pretender wasn't willing to do anything. She said that she couldn't because it was out of jurisdiction. See, here's what happened.
Who was it? Who was the public pretender?
Her name was Pamela Carty in Arapahoe County. See, what happened is Natalie's sister wanted to get a protection order against me, and I don't know who all was on that because I wasn't allowed a copy of it. When they served me those papers, they didn't actually serve me. They had injected me full of a bunch of real dangerous drugs. I was out of my friggin' mind. I couldn't read, and they were serving me a protection order that I literally thought it was a dream because when they handed me the protection order, I couldn't read it. So then when I woke up and I asked about it, I was like, I was pretty sure it was a dream, but I had to ask because they drugged me. And they said
Yeah.
that there was one, and they'd go get it, and they couldn't find it. And ever since then, I've had to deal with like Officer Amanda Balehash telling me stupid shit like, "Oh well, it was put on the windowsill." Why the hell would you put it on the windowsill? And then I was told it was put in my personal property, and I went through my personal property, and it wasn't in there either. But anyway,
Yeah, that shit's illegal as fuck.
I know that's not even close to the most illegal thing that they did, though. And I saved as much proof as I could. I even got witnesses in the jail. They stole my witness list.
Damn.
Here's something you probably ain't gonna believe. I actually got
I'm telling you, if it has to do with government corruption, I believe it.
inmates at the Arapahoe County Jail to fill out voluntary statement forms.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't take them. But
Imagine that.
right. What happened is I went and lit Ken and Leah's. Well, I lit the road on fire next to their truck, but I was trying to get to force the police to take a look at my evidence and actually take that evidence and enter it in as evidence. So I went and I lit the road on fire next to Ken and Leah's truck, and then I made a post about it because obviously the police aren't listening to me. I have to try to force somebody else to do it. So I let Natalie Bollinger's family's crazy hangers on do it for them. I posted it up on YouTube or on Facebook so that it was something that they could see. I even gave them the number to call the Secret Service, and then I threatened the President of the United States. Now, obviously, I wasn't going to hurt the President of the United States.
You threatened the President of the United States?
Dude, all of this stuff happened across multiple jurisdictions. I mean, by the time it's all said and done, we're talking about at least 6 jurisdictions just in Colorado. So I had to try to get the FBI involved, you know, way back at the beginning of the year, and they wouldn't get involved. They wouldn't look at any of it. The judges wouldn't look at any of it. My public pretenders, I know all of their names. None of them would do anything about it. So, I mean, literally, I had no options. People kept telling me I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then they wouldn't do it, and I wasted all of my resources on doing what it is that they asked. So, I told them that I was going to go to Starbucks in Longmont off 17th and Main Street, and I went there and I waited, and the officers showed up, and I explained to them that I wasn't suicidal, that I needed to make a report. They told me they were going to take me to the hospital and I could make a report there. I already knew what was happening there. They were going to put me on a 72-hour hold and refuse to take a report from me, which is exactly what happened. When we got to the hospital, they'd given me their word that that was going to happen, and then all the officers left. So I was pretty pissed off. I mean, when somebody commits a crime, you got a very short amount of time to get this stuff done in. And the border police assault had happened, you know, way back in January, and here I am in August in a hospital. Well, that's when they assaulted me. I was in the hospital less than 20 hours on a 72-hour hold. They gave me a protection order while I was in there. But I didn't get to see the protection order, didn't get to read it. Basically, I just knew that I had court. Well, when I
had you doped up on fucking opiates, huh?
Yep, probably opiates. I don't know exactly what they had me on. I just know that it was a chemical lobotomy. The same thing they did to Bodie and Sam.
Fucking psych meds, bro.
Yeah, I people don't understand how messed up those are. Everybody's instant cure for everything in the United States is take pills. Oh, you lost your house and you're depressed because you lost your house? Take pills, that'll fix it. Are you fucking kidding me? That shit don't work. There are things that pills do not fix. They want to turn me into a
people
zombie.
out of their right mind, bro. That's really all they care about is that people aren't in their right mind. Because if everybody's in their right mind, then they'll fucking rise up for the stop of this shit.
Yeah, well, they tried to make me
as
stupid.
many people dosed out on opiates and pills and fucking alcohol as possible.
Well, they set me up for court for the 29th. to go to that civil court, and I had to get other people to help me to find out anything about that. I was able to finally find out the court was on the 29th. And then on that same thing, they told me that Officer Brian Valenzuela is the one who's in charge of my case, I guess. He told me that he would allow me to go to court on the 29th and then take care of his business afterwards, which would have allowed me to go show all the stuff that these people had done to me. Because in a civil trial, you can do things that you can't do in a criminal case. In the civil case, it was a protection order from Alicia and a few of her family members. And these family members had taken part in destroying my life for, almost 2 years by this point. And I wasn't allowed to go, so they got their protection orders, and I didn't get to expose the police. And basically, what had happened is I've been prevented from seeing my therapist since Natalie died. And although I tried real hard to make sure that that happened, the amount of money that they were taking from me for the things that they did, like the border police assaulted the shit out of me, charged me with felony assault, and then they refused to take my report to this day. Keep telling me that it's not their department. I have to call these people. I have to call those people. I have to call the other. So on the 24th, between Amanda Jonas and Brian Valenzuela, I'd missed 3 appointments with my therapist there in Longmont, and they'd interrupted 2 of them. This was the last interruption. Amanda was gonna take a report about her fellow officer who had assaulted me in the Longmont hospital. Well, it turned out that's not what she was interested in. She lied to me on multiple occasions. So what I'm fighting for, mind you, is to make the police have to wear body cams. The same thing I was petitioning for when I first got to Boulder. What they did to me was lie to me outright and then harass me, threaten me, and intimidate me. I had court on the 29th that I was supposed to go to in Larimer County over another place that I was assaulted before they found the guy that killed Natalie. But, they weren't willing to admit that they had done wrong. Even after they found the guy who killed Natalie, they still weren't willing to admit that they'd done wrong. And it was costing me all of my money to go jump through their hoops to the point that I didn't have any money to live on.
Yeah.
So they had taken my car and they told me I could get it back in a couple of days. And I was in there talking to Amanda, but she didn't go first. Instead, the Secret Service went first, and they determined that I was not a threat. Obviously. Well, this didn't matter because the judge lied on several occasions to prevent me from getting a PR bond. Pamela Cardi described Judge, what was her name? Catherine Jansky, as a rubber stamp for the prosecution. Basically, the prosecution says, this is what I want, and Miss Jansky gives it to them.
Yeah.
Well, they took me to Boulder County Jail first. This is before Jansky and Pamela Cardi. They took me to Boulder County Jail. This is where I had been going through hell in January, and now it's August. I'm back in Boulder, where I'm literally being threatened, harassed, intimidated, and assaulted by the police that are there, the sheriff's department. And I can't get them to take a report. I write a couple of kites or whatever about it, and they threw them back in my face, refused to look at them, told me I could take care of it when I got released. Well, when I got released, I wasn't released. I was there from the 24th to the 29th. I was assaulted 4 times. You know the chair they strap you in when you're no good?
Yeah.
Yeah, they strapped me in that chair and I escaped.
Really?
Yes, sir.
All right. You have to fill me in on fucking how you made that happen. Because that shit's fucking impossible to escape.
See, that's what I thought until I did it. But they'd done stuff like throw my food at me, put me in a Bam Bam suit. I literally tried to commit suicide over the way that they treated me. But I was going out of my way the whole time to try to get it to where I could go to my court date in Arapahoe. That was a civil case with Alicia Bollinger. Um, well, they wouldn't listen to me. They kept on hazing me and harassing me and assaulting me. So finally, on the 29th, they had court while I was in transition. I was in a vehicle going from Boulder County Jail, where I was being held for Arapahoe County. They finally took me to Arapahoe County, and I got there after court was over, and I wasn't allowed to go to court anyway. Well, then they refused to let me go into booking. Like, I got there, and I got to see three groups of people from underneath the door, of course, because they put a magnet over the window. Basically, sensory deprivation as much as they can. And I got to see three large groups of people who came in after me, get booked, but I wasn't allowed to. And then from there, I mean, it was just one hell of an experience. It was assault after assault after assault, and I hadn't been allowed to go to that protection order. And then they 6 days before I was supposed to have another court date. See, the police had that information on the 18th of August that I was supposed to have court in Adams County. So they prevented me from going to court in Adams County. They gave me that piece of paper like 6 days before I was supposed to go to court in Adams County. They'd already had that piece of paper in their hands for 3 days and didn't bring it to me. And then I think his name was Officer Batoni. I had to write all this stuff down because I'm no good with names. He handed me the protection order, basically punched it in my hand, and they told me if I filled out this habeas corpus thing that I'd get to go to court. So I filled that out. The problem is that the two officers who were on duty were McRae and Thorne. These two had put me on suicide watch for filling out a report against them. So these people were no help whatsoever. Well, I find out later after my public pretender is basically ignoring me. She tells me, well, you had to fill out such and such a form. And I'm like, that doesn't exist here in the jail. Any jail form that they don't have on that wall of jail forms, you don't get to fill out. You have to have an attorney do it. So they're telling me that my public pretender is going to do this. My public pretender is allowed to do this, and this is what my public pretender is for. And then what does my public pretender tell me? She can't do anything because it's out of her jurisdiction. So basically, all of these people can harass me, threaten me, intimidate me, and assault me across jurisdiction, but I can't do anything because it's cross jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And
they're giving you the runaround, dude.
Yep, they didn't allow me to go to my second one. Now, if I'd have been able to go to either one of those court dates, the civil court dates, then I'd have been able to, well, possibly put Ted Bollinger in prison as well as several officers. But then there was also a court date in Larimer County I was supposed to have on the 29th. Well, I wasn't able to call my public pretender because the two public pretenders that I had before her were actual public pretenders, and they wouldn't do their jobs. So they gave me this lady named Jill Gookin, she talks to me like I'm a dog. She's pissed off because she gets paid money to do her job, and now she's basically stuck with what's the equivalent of pro bono work in her mind, and she's treating me like shit no matter what.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to go to court on the 30th because I was incarcerated. I also wasn't able to get in contact with my lawyer. A lady named Mandy put some money on my phone so that I could talk to people, and that money literally never went through to my phone.
What?
Yeah, they did stole my money. Well, actually, they stole hers. If I'd have been able to make those phone calls, things would have worked out a lot smoother, and I possibly could have been released on a PR bond. The problem is that my public pretender, well, you know how it is. They got a trade between them and the prosecutor. Like, I'll give you 4 homeless people if you let this mother and her kids go free, or if you let this father who has kids, keep his house or whatever. I mean, basically, they just trade it back and forth.
Man,
So
that shit's like WWF, bro. They in front of the fucking microphones and cameras, they pretend to be fucking enemies and hate each other, and but behind the scenes, they're not taking each other to dinners and making backdoor deals and all this other shit. You know what I mean? It's all for show, man.
I do know. But the other thing is, I all of my money was going to running around all these court dates. I had court in Nebraska, 2 court dates there that I needed to go to. The one that I committed, I actually was guilty of the crimes they accused me of in Chapel, Nebraska. But they didn't want any of the repercussions that come with what they did to force that situation, so they dropped the charges.
Yeah.
But they didn't drop the charges for vandalism in Scotts Bluff. See, they had, over what happened in Chapel, they tried to take me to Scotts Bluff to try to get me labeled as bipolar so that it makes what they did to me okay. Well, while I was there, they were trying to force drugs into me using needles, and that wasn't a happening thing.
Yeah.
So, basically, I held their machines hostage. Anytime they tried to come bring drugs and put them in me, I broke another one of their machines.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that. See, they didn't care if I hurt one of the staff there because people don't mean shit to these folks. Profit is what matters to the people who make decisions there, and those machines mean profit.
Yeah.
So I went after their machines and they didn't put their drugs in me, thank goodness. But there's a warrant out for my arrest for failure to appear in court there because I was already in jail. I was already incarcerated, and I wasn't allowed to get a hold of my lawyers. Now they say, well, you had access to the phones. No, I didn't have access to the phones. If there's a phone that I can't use to call people, then I don't have access to it. That's like giving me a car with no gas and telling me, hey, you should have driven to work 30 miles away, but you chose not to. No, I didn't choose not to. I have no gas. And that's the thing about Mandy and the money that she put on there, is that she put money on there, it just wasn't usable. Her daughter later came and put money on my phones, but it wasn't until after I had already missed all those court dates. So I was actually assaulted in Arapahoe County Jail, only once by the staff, but I was also assaulted at least 4 times by inmates. You know what the inmates were pissed off about? I was trying to make a report to the police. It didn't matter what time of day it was. During the day, they kept rolling me over and telling me, you know, I'll do it now, and I'll do it at this time, or I'll do it at this time. And they kept on telling me basically that they would do it right before they got off of their shift, and then never showed up. And because I was still trying to make a report and still needed an investigator, I literally asked for an investigator every single day and every single night that I was there. And my roommates hated me for it because I'm having a panic attack because these officers are getting away with whatever they want, and I need an investigator. But the officers there, they turned a blind eye to the cruelty of a lot of the inmates there. I mean, shit, you could have somebody pay you 4 soups for a picture that you draw, but they're not going to give you those 4 soups. They're going to pay some big dude to come beat you up for 1 soup. And it's ramen noodles.
You gotta understand, Sean, that fucking, if you're asking for an investigator, you're asking, it's the equivalent of asking George Bush to investigate 9/11.
Right?
You know what I mean? That is shit. You're fucking blowing hot air at that point.
That doesn't matter. At least I was trying, and that's the point that needs to be made.
Alright. Well, now that you actually do have access to phones, you need to be calling the right people and reporting this shit.
Well, I've been trying. The problem is I've been getting the runaround. So I started actually recording my phone calls on the computer. That way, if basically the stuff that they say, you know, I can use. The problem is a lot of the stuff that they said before, they're not repeating now.
Yeah.
And a lot of them aren't actually picking up. So I got like 20 or 30 things on my computer I deleted because, I mean, You know, what am I going to show them, that there's an answering machine?
Yeah.
But I actually, because of all the assaults by the police and the continued threats by the Bollinger family and their friends, like I left the state of Colorado with warrants. I did not go back to Nebraska. I got
Yeah.
warrants there too. And that's the thing. I literally I made sure that I went to every court date, while they went out of their way to do nothing every court date and process it on to another court date, another day next month, another day next month. And each time that they're doing this, it's costing me $100 per trip to go down there and see them. Meanwhile, my public pretender's not showing up to our meetings. That's costing me $100 as well. And when I'm supposed to meet with their investigator doesn't show up. So that's costing me $100. Meanwhile, they're absolved of this, but if I don't show up, I get a warrant out for my arrest. So I'm going to all of them. I'm hoping for a peaceful resolve. I'm pissed off that at Clearview they haven't dropped the charges and they didn't allow me to press charges against the people who had assaulted me and forced them drugs into me. And all of this happened because they wanted to cover for Boulder Police Department. They kept on shipping me out of county so that I couldn't report against them. And then when I go back into the county to report them, I get assaulted and threatened and intimidated by the police some more. Derek Apicata actually fucking assaulted me. The child molesting piece of shit.
Have you talked to any internal affairs officers?
I've tried. That's the difficulty that I'm dealing with now, is that a lot of these people, I called to go talk to their internal investigators, and internal investigators didn't talk to me. Instead, the
Yeah.
supervisors of these officers called me back to threaten and harass me. And at the time, I didn't have the ability to record it. That's something that a lot of people don't understand. Like when the Bollingers are dealing with stressful stuff, there's other Bollingers that are there that are, verifying it. For me, it's just me. I mean, when I was talking to those, what was supposed to be the internal affairs officers who ended up being not internal affairs, I was outside of my friend Andrew Witcher's house in Sidney, Nebraska. I mean, he was going to help me with that, but oh, apparently my alarm's going off. He was going to help me with that, but he didn't get to because he's got kids. Plus, he was having some real issues with meth at the time, and I'm like, fuck, just can't catch a break. But all along the line, like, it's just been nonstop harassment, threats, and assault by the police. And the courts, like, I'm supposed to have 7 days if I have to have a continuance on a court date. And this was explained to me after all of this happened, when it was already too late for that information to be useful. It was explained to me that I have to write out a piece of paper 7 days ahead of time, letting them know I won't be able to go to court. Well, they didn't give me the thing saying I had a protection order until 6 days before court, and they didn't allow me to go to the court. My public pretender wouldn't do anything, so that second set of really what should have been me allowed to show what was going on wasn't allowed. They got that protection order and got to paint me out as a villain. Natalie Bollinger's family, all of them belong in prison. What her stepmothers did was felonious, and like they intentionally misled the situation, same as Natalie did, same as her mom did. These people have done nothing but play massive head games with me, and then they want to get pissed off that I make videos. Like, how the hell else am I supposed to get the word out? And they've got all these web crazies because, I mean, millions of people worldwide got to see this. Millions of people worldwide got a hold of that case and were basically going to town at me. Millions weren't, thousands were, threatening my life and all that kind of stuff. And then they're hell bent on destroying anything that I have to say, so that only one side gets to be seen by the public. Now, I need the public involved. I need the public to know what's going on, and I need public support. And that's the issue, is that none of my friends have the time or energy, and they keep saying, you got to do it yourself. I'm like, fuck, I am doing it myself. All of the actual work part I'm doing by myself. But, when I was pissed off at you, it wasn't because of the things that you had to say. I already knew you were that kind of an asshole. It was the fact that you were typing that shit on a post where there was people who there were some people who were really mean to me over the things that you typed. And I already knew that was going to happen before it happened. It's easy to tell the psychology of people and what their assumptions are going to be based on past experiences.
Well, Sean, it's perfectly okay to be mad at somebody. You know how I know that. You know how I know that you love me as a real good friend because you give that at me. Because if you didn't love me, you wouldn't give a fuck what I had to say. You know what I mean?
You're right about that. I also love
So,
Natalie, and I love her sister, and I even love her stepmothers, even though I never met them. I mean, it's going through my head that they were threatened by Ted Bollinger the same as a lot of my other friends were. I mean, over half the people that were going to help me, they were cut off from being able to do so. Let me know that they were being harassed and threatened and intimidated and were having their Facebook shut down because people were complaining about everything. And then there was a lot of people that just outright left because, well, I'm assuming that they were threatened and intimidated too and didn't want to say anything.
well, here's the thing that the cops know, bro. The cops know that if you don't have any evidence, all you have is a story. That's it. So what kind of evidence do you have? Do you have paperwork showing that you was locked up for this time that you was supposed to be that you supposedly missed court?
Yeah, I do. Matter of fact, I have thousands of screenshots of all this stuff that's going on. That's the problem, is that these web crazies are going out of their way to destroy all that evidence when I post it up on Facebook. If I post it up in a group, if I post it up on YouTube, they're heavily invested in making sure that none of that hits the light of day. The police have gone out of their way to destroy evidence and to omit evidence and also to prevent evidence from being entered as evidence by calling it just property. That's what Brian Valenzuela did with that bag of evidence. Like when I did that at Ken and Leah's, and then I threatened the President of the United States, that was because I needed an outside person to take a look at that information, to take a look at everything that I had in that bag. Instead, they took that bag from me, and there's a lady named Shannon in California, and I was going to send her. I should find out where she lives. You know, there's a lot of people actually that were thinking about that. There's a lot of people in California that were involved in that. I should look some of them up. But she was trying to get me to send my bag to her place, and I really should have, looking back on it. My whole panic attack that whole time I was in jail was over not being allowed to go to my court dates. And even if I was allowed to go to my court dates, Officer Brian Valenzuela had all the evidence. So, I mean, what am I going to do at court? Just talk? They've separated me from that evidence nonstop since it happened, and that's the major issue, is that I'm not allowed to defend myself in public. I'm not allowed to defend myself on Facebook. I'm not allowed to defend myself on YouTube. I'm not allowed to defend myself to the media. I'm not allowed to defend myself.
Hey, did they give you any paperwork saying that you had a bag? Did they say that they put that in your property or anything like that? Any kind of paperwork?
I don't know. I'll have to look
That's
that up.
evidence, bro. If you got paperwork saying that you had that bag in your property, then that's evidence.
Well, that's the
Just
thing, is
that piece
that
of paper is
the
evidence.
paperwork that I got from the release of the jail, they took
Yeah.
that bag to Arapahoe County, where I was charged with a crime. But they took me to jail in Boulder County, where I was not charged with a crime. And then they took me from Boulder County to Arapahoe County, but I didn't have that bag with me because Officer Brian Valenzuela had already taken it. So as far as the whole paperwork thing goes, no, not really. But I believe I do have a piece of paper from when I went to pick it up. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to call Tabby and see what Billy says about it.
All right. Well, if you got any kind of paperwork that says that you had a bag, and it don't even have to be that bag. If you had a bag in your possession whenever you was arrested, that's evidence that they don't have. You know what I mean? Because that was That was your evidence, right?
Yep. Matter of fact,
that's evidence of a cover-up. If they don't have fucking, if they can't give you that bag back. You know what I mean? That's your property.
I did get the bag back. They just wouldn't allow me to go to the courts, and they wouldn't allow me that bag in the courts. They wouldn't even allow me to call Brian Valenzuela. I didn't even know where he worked, believe it or not. I knew that he worked in Arapahoe County. And on most of my paperwork, I wrote down Officer Brian Valenzuela of Arapahoe County. I didn't write Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department because I didn't know if he worked for them or not. But nobody would let me know that information. Nobody would share that with me. They kept on playing stupid or ignorant. Same thing as they did when, well, they do that a lot, actually. Like, which officer? I don't know which one you're talking about. Dude, you were literally standing right next to an officer. There were only 2 officers in this room. How do you not know who the dude who was literally 30 seconds ago standing next to you, how do you not know his name?
Yeah.
Like what they did in Boulder County was mostly physical and a lot of harassment. What they did in Arapahoe County was basically just pretend like I was suicidal every time that I'd make a report against them. They did a lot of psychological crap there. Yeah. Anyway, I gotta get off the phone for a minute and go use the bathroom. I might call you back in a few minutes.
Alright, bro.
Alright, be safe.
Right,
Love you, Hebert. Stay ugly and tell Gumby he's ugly too.
Alright, man. Love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Love you too. Bye.